Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our latest Town Hall podcast. I'm Andrew McDonald. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Opportunity International. And I would like to welcome Dan Murray to get started on our call today. Dan.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking the time this afternoon to join us for this Town Hall. Just a quick overview of today's session. First, my colleague, Grace Loney, will walk you through the 2019 annual report as we look back on what seems a very different era. And then we'll provide a quick update on what's happened so far in 2020 and have a look at some upcoming events. Please use the Q&A feature here to send in any questions as they come up while we proceed. And Grace and I will address those questions, or at least attempt to, before we wrap up, maybe in about half an hour to 40 minutes. So at this point, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my colleague, Grace Loney. Grace is the CFO at Opportunity International Canada and has been with us for just over 10 years. I can tell you that Grace is a strong financial executive with a big heart for our mission. Grace, over to you.
Thanks so much, Dan. And I do have some slides to kind of guide us along the way. So I'm just going to take the time to put those up so that we can all follow along, and hoping that this works. So here we are. So I trust maybe Andrew, if you give me the nod that this is coming up well on everybody's screen. Yeah, I'm getting some chats already, so thank you for that, and I'll keep that going up. So it's going well. I'm just going to move back. I accidentally tipped that forward when I was shifting my notes around. So anyways, thank you for joining us today, and I trust you've had a chance to look through our annual report that's been presented. It came out about a week ago, and I'm hoping to be able to add a little bit more information to what you find in the report, just to augment what's already there, all the great material that we've put together. So when I was putting my thoughts together as to what should I share with the group, I got thinking about the people that make up Opportunity. So who we are and the different groups behind everything that goes into the work that we do. So what came to mind was all the people behind the numbers. You know, as Dan mentioned, I'm a financial executive and I'm an accountant by trade. So I do tend to look at numbers and enjoy working with numbers and looking at the numbers. But there is a lot behind these numbers. And we've had a very successful year thanks to all the groups shown on the slide in front of you. From our over 1,600 donors and funders, and I actually gave the exact number of 1,646 people have either donated or funded Opportunity in 2019. And things just wouldn't happen without our strong supporter group. We also have 10 implementing partners that we work with who help us carry out our mission, and it's just been a pleasure working with them throughout the year. We have our 10 very committed board members who have been a real inspiration to us, and they have been there for us through all the ups and downs, and there were some of those last year, but we ended very successfully. And then we have our 13 staff members who are very, very, very passionate, and we're all so humbled to work with these various groups that you see on the slide there. And I'm sure each person within these numbers has their own story to share of why they support Opportunity International, and even some of their favorite client stories. So starting with the first group, and that would be our donors and our funders. So in the annual report, you'll note that we did receive 7.8 million in funding last year, and that was thanks to these three groups here. So this is slicing the information. As accountants, we like to slice and dice, so slicing the information just a little bit differently. So I'll start first with our donor group. And that's starting with the individuals. That's on the left-hand side of the screen there. And I've given the statistics for the last 3 years. I thought it was a really important trend to take a look at. And here we've got, starting in 2017, we received 1.43 million in donations from individuals. And that has increased by about 200,000 each year, such that we ended 2019 with 1.84 million from just individuals. And that was so inspiring and so wonderful to see as the numbers were coming in. And then moving on next, we've got our businesses and foundations who also support opportunity. I think a lot of our businesses are started as entrepreneurs themselves, and so they have a real heart and passion for our entrepreneurs in the developing world. So in 2017, you'll note that we did have 2.21 million that was received from this group, and in there was a substantial gift of well over 600,000 from one foundation. So that was a real pleasure to receive that, and it went to a lot, a very, very wonderful program. But then we sort of dropped in 2018. So again, we all start to wonder what's happening there. But then we bounced back up in 2019 to 2 million has been received from our businesses and foundations. Again, another blessing throughout the year. And then finally, just the technical funder group. And this is a new area for us. We've been ramping that up over the last 3 years. And you can see in 2017 that we had 5.3 million that came in. And the main technical funders in this group are Global Affairs Canada, Rotary, and the MasterCard Foundation. And then there's some smaller technical funders as well. So in 2017, we were pleased to receive a 5-year grant, or a 4-year grant actually, $20 million grant for 4 years, starting in 2017. So that was a very good boost to our operations and what a difference it makes in the field. In 2018, again, we were pleased to receive funding from all 3 of those groups as well, from Global Affairs Canada, from Rotary, and also from MasterCard Foundation. However, the MasterCard Foundation, our 5-year, we had a 5-year grant with them that ended in 2018. And throughout the last year or 2 of that project, we were notified by MasterCard that they're changing their strategy. So we've been working with them to see if we can still fit in with what they want to fund, but we didn't receive any funding in 2019. So that explains the drop there between 2019, where we received 3.8 million from our technical funders, versus the year before of 5.45 million. And I wanted to point that out because I thought it was an important message to provide to people, that the reason for that is the 1.6 million that we had been receiving from the MasterCard over the last couple of years, we didn't receive in 2019. However, there is a little bit of a good news story in that. If you look to the 2 bars, the 2 blue bars to the left there, you'll see an increase in the donations side. So we received a drop of 1.6 million in our technical funding, but an $800,000 increase in our donation side from private donors. So that was, again, another blessing that we saw throughout the year. So we almost made up that gap, that 1.6 million gap, by 800,000, so halfway in 1 year. And that was just a tremendous encouragement to us and to the staff. So this, again, shows sort of where the money has come from to do our mission. So now I'd like to move into, well, what do we use with the money? Where were the funds deployed? So here's a depiction that you saw probably in the annual report. We had a little chart that shows the percentage of the funds in the 3 categories there. So as supporters of Opportunity, you'll be pleased to note that 82% of our funds that we receive is spent on our charitable objectives. So that's our international programs, it's for education, it's for research, and it's for, I used M&E there, I used an acronym, and that's monitoring and evaluation of our programs. That's a very big value add that we at Opportunity do, is that we make sure that the funds are deployed to the field and they are being used for the purpose intended. So then the remaining 2 categories that you can see there, fundraising and finance and administration, otherwise known as G&A, the total of the 2 is 18%. So again, we do need to have some funding towards making sure that we're managing the funds appropriately. We do endeavor to keep these expenses to a minimum, and to be very efficient and very effective and very good stewards of the funds that you provide to us. So moving on, as this is coming down, I've done a further breakdown of the expenses because I did have a question ahead of time asking if I could explain what is in each one of the categories of our expenses and why I present the financial statements the way I do. Like if you look at our financial statements on the website, you'll see that it's been done on an activity basis versus your traditional way of presenting financial statements where you would see the expenses would be listed as salaries, office expenses, rent, all that sort of thing. We do it, we cost it out based on the activities that our fund, that our group does. So starting at the top there, what's been dispersed to our implementing partners, almost 3.8 million has been sent to our partners in the field. And I won't dwell too much on that figure on this slide because I have a couple others that will sort of flesh that out a little bit more. So then I'm going to jump over one category, and there's a reason why I'm doing that, but I'm going to go into the invested in program research, monitoring, and oversight, about 1.2 million there. So here we've got the costs that are pertaining to our program team. So we have a program team at Opportunity Canada, and what's included is their costs, which is comprised of salaries, their travel expenses, all of their direct costs in performing their duties in the activities of program monitoring. It also includes some research studies that are being conducted through our Global Affairs project that will really add some real weight to microfinance and some improvements into the future. So we do think that's important to be continuing to innovate and to improve on the work that we do. There's the next category is the fundraising and resource development. This is the cost of our fundraising team, that they obviously their salaries and some of their travel expenses pre-COVID, and the events that we carry on to provide the funding for our projects that we do in the field. So, and a part of the fundraisers' duties is not just out there fundraising, they're also engaged in educating the public on philanthropy, on poverty alleviation, on microfinance and how microfinance is such a great tool in the poverty alleviation fight that we're underway. So a portion of their costs are also included in the red category up there, spent on education and awareness. So we do provide a portion of the costs we included in that category, along with our communication team, because a big part of their duties are educating and providing awareness of the work that we do in the field. And the very last category there is what's been spent on finance and administration. So that's the finance team. That would be, again, the salaries and some of our costs, and also like audit fees and legal fees that we may incur. Those are caught in that category. So the bottom two categories, the invested in fundraising and spent on finance and administration, that comprises the 18% that you saw on the previous slide. So moving on, this is a slide that I put together, and it's just, I really enjoyed working on this. It shows what opportunity is in support of the Sustainable Development Goals developed by the UN that are to be reached by 2030. Many of you are aware of the Millennial Development Goals that were to be completed by 2015. Well, this is the next iteration of those goals. And there are 17 goals that the UN has put in place. And at Opportunity, we definitely fit in the category of 5 of them that are listed there on the slide. I won't read them to you as you're listening. You can be taking a look at that. In the background is also the map of the world, and it shows the countries that we have operated in throughout 2019. So a fair number of countries in Latin and South America, Ghana in Africa, and India in Asia. So that's pertains to Opportunity Canada's reach. So you'll also note that number 1, the goal there, no poverty, it's on the left-hand side of the screen, does show up as number 1. And this is at the very core of Opportunity International. This is why we exist. And one of our charitable objects is to conduct charitable and educational projects that are designed to relieve poverty. So we were doing this long before the millennial goals and now also the Sustainable Development Goals. You may hear me say SDG, I mean Sustainable Development Goals. I'll try to say that out so that I'm not using acronyms, but that is at the very core of what we do. So I'll expand further on those as to the impact that Opportunity Canada has had over the 2019 year. So moving on to this slide that I put together. Again, it was another fun slide to work on because it does show the impact that we're having and that the difference that we're making in 2019. So as I mentioned previously, 3.8 million has gone to the field in order to conduct some of these projects. So very conservatively, I've put these numbers together based on the agreements that we have with our implementing partners and some of the targets and objectives that we set out for them when the funds are set to them. So you'll note that I started with number 4. So I'm gone a little bit out of order, but there was some method to my madness in putting this together. I started with education because to me, that is at the forefront of a lot of what we do. All of our microfinance clients do receive financial literacy and business training. We want them to be successful, and that is, again, at the very core of what they're doing. So they learn as they're going through, and they also are able to be successful in their businesses. We also have some programs for children that are learning about financial literacy. So they're included in that category as well, starting them at a young age, and we'll see the impact in the years to come. So building on this, we also move into number 8, which is the decent work and economic growth. Again, this is what our microfinance programs are designed to accomplish, is that we create jobs. And that is one of the best ways of, we call it working your way out of poverty. That's been one of our catchphrases in the years gone by. So starting with the figure that you see on the slide there, the 10,335, it's on the sort of the right-hand side there. Those are the number of clients we supported with loans throughout the year. So not only do they get their business going, which creates employment for the entrepreneur, they also hire people. So they're creating jobs, and that is just a tremendous outpouring of it. We talk about the multiplication factor a lot in Opportunity, and that comes through in the way that we are working towards this goal of decent work and economic growth. And community development is all done through these entrepreneurs who are definitely change agents in their communities. So then the next thing we would do is move to number 3, goal number 3, which again is the health aspect of things. This is another new area for us, and we've moved into the healthpreneurs area. That's a new kind of concept for us at Opportunity Canada, and this builds on our trust group infrastructure that we have across various countries, that we have community health workers who then meet with these trust groups to provide basic health training, provide basic health supplies and medicines it's very basic healthcare, but at least it's something that is getting to the very last mile of some of these very rural communities. And these healthpreneurs also, they earn a living as well doing it. So it's another job creation that happens, another spin-off of all of this. So as we're kind of working our way and moving out, you can see just the various ways that this is manifest in different areas. Also, we found a reason that we've gone into this area is if you need to be healthy, maintain your health in order to continue your business. If you have a business going, especially with women, they'll make sure that their children get the health care they need. And then when children are well, they're able to learn better. And so therefore that goes back to the quality education piece. Then moving on to the next goal, the gender equality. Again, this is at the very core of Opportunity. We've supported women from the very beginning by empowering women. Lots of takeaways from that. The children are looked after. There's employment is created. confidence is built, communities are changed. So here we've got over 36,000 women who were empowered last year through our funding by getting access to financial services. They're receiving business training. They've got improved health care for themselves and their families. So again, something that comes out of just that very basic loan. We quite often say more than a loan, and this is microfinance plus. And then finally, I ended on the number one goal, which is no poverty. Just these 4 goals that we just discussed lead to the poverty eradication. This was a hard one to quantify, but I was able to come up with 63, almost 64,000 people who have benefited from the funding in the field. So again, lots of great impact shown through the funding and lots of wonderful stories. You'll see some of them in the annual report, and also always check our website because we keep those stories fresh, just inspiring stories of how Opportunity Canada is assisting our clients in moving away from poverty. So finally, just to leave just a couple of highlights from 2019 before we move into what's on the horizon for 2020. So we had a strong finish. It was a fabulous Q4. It was inspiring, and it was just great to see. We had our fundraising team has just done fabulous through the year. And we ended the year, we had 3.6 million in private donor funding, and this is the highest in 5 years. So a very, very strong finish, which was a great way to start the year, especially, you know, as the December and January rolled around, we would not have even envisioned the COVID-19 issues that were soon to arise. So we have ended very strong and in a very good position to weather this whole pandemic. In the middle is a picture of some women in Ghana. It's one of my favorite stories, and just how Opportunity Canada has contributed to Opportunity International Global. So we're part of a bigger organization and lots of colleagues around the world, and we're happy to partner with them as well. And finally, just not mentioned previously, is we did introduce an endowment fund. So that's yet another new area for us at Opportunity, where we're looking at endowment funds. And so we had a donor who kickstarted an endowment fund program for us in memory of Robert Struthers, who's a dear friend of Opportunity Canada. So with that, I will end my presentation and turn it over to Dan.
Well, thank you, Grace. And just a reminder to all of you, please send your questions to us using the Q&A feature. And as Grace noted, you know, we finished 2019 in a very strong position, and that's really thanks to the amazing and inspiring generosity of our donors and to the very hard work of our team. So it was really exciting, you know, in January and mid-February, kind of looking forward to what 2020 was going to look like. And then, of course, COVID-19 hit. And COVID-19 has impacted our partners and our clients, probably disproportionately, because the poor are always hit harder and disproportionately impacted by crises such as this. And in fact, some of our partners, staff, and some clients, you know, have been diagnosed with COVID-19, notwithstanding efforts to protect them with PPE and proper social distancing measures. And it's really sad for me to say here that, you know, at Opportunity Canada, one of the saddest and deepest impacts of this pandemic was the passing yesterday of our brother Juan Ulloa, the executive director of Academic, which is our partner in Nicaragua. Juan has been a leader for many years. He's considered in Latin America to be the dean of microfinance, and he had so much impact. I had the pleasure of meeting him last August in Colombia. This is Juan, you can see over here on the right-hand side. And in the middle here, second from the left, is David Stiller, Opportunity Canada's founder. And we have 2 board members as well. This was, I think, a meeting in 2014 in Tegucigalpa. And, you know, it's such a tragedy. Juan has such a big heart. You know, Academic, like all of our implementing partners, have the discipline of a bank with the heart of an NGO, and they exist to serve the poor. and Juan's loss is going to be felt widely and broadly. So I would just ask you to pray for his family, pray for the academic team at this time as well. And we are looking at tangible ways to provide support and to honor Juan's legacy. And please stay tuned as we work on that. You know, like most organizations, our team had to shift its engagements and fundraising initiatives to all things virtual. We changed our funding focus to a COVID-19 response fund in order to support our partners and our clients. And I have to say that our team has been creative and focused and is working very hard, and our donors have been responding generously. Earlier this year, we've already raised over $400,000 in direct support for our partners, and these funds have already been dispersed to partners around the world in supporting our implementing partners so they can stand with our clients, as well as the education finance program. All of these have been directly impacted, and our partners have expressed deep gratitude for the support. Now, the financial support is very tangible, and just the encouragement of knowing that they're not alone in this time. You know, we know that this crisis has the potential to deepen poverty levels around the world. So our team will be working harder than ever to help our partners and clients to survive today so that they can thrive tomorrow. So through the summer and into the fall, there will be a mix of virtual and, as appropriate, a few small in-person events. I'm very excited here to announce something brand new and innovative that our team has come up with as part of this shift to all things virtual. This is an event planned for August, and it's the Virtual Insight Trip. You know, we're not able to fly to where our partners serve and where our clients live. So we're going to take you to where we serve so you can meet our partners and our clients around the world from the comfort of your home. It's going to be an amazing experience that you won't want to miss, and please check out our website for more information. As well, there are other events in the fall. There's the Ride for Refuge, and we're hoping to mobilize teams across the country to ride to support our partners at this time. As well, we'll be engaging in a bunch of Dine for Dignity events and also the London Golf event. And all of this information will be available and is available on our website. And I'm sure you'll be contacted by folks that are in touch with you. So I just want to thank you again for taking time to join us today. The partnership that we have with our donor community is absolutely inspiring. Grace and I would be very happy to entertain any questions. I'm just going to check the question here. And Grace, there's one for you here. It just says, Grace, you use the numbers well to tell the incredible story of CSE's impact of the funding in the field and the lives of many people. I appreciated the linking of your impacts with the SDGs. So it's a comment, not a question. But,
I'll take it. Thank you. Thanks, Nancy.
And we'd be happy to entertain any other questions at this point before we wrap up our session today. Grace, here's another question. Grace, you touched on so many great impacts tied to the SDGs in 2019. Would you be able to speak to Opportunity Canada's impact?
I missed that one. Yeah, I can put that. Do you want me to put the slide back up? Because that was Opportunities impact. Was here. These are our numbers and what we directly, how we directly impacted. So just wondering, as you see the numbers there, lots of lives behind that and lots of stories. I'd like to start at this bottom number here. Almost 64,000 people have been impacted by our donor community and by our projects and by our programs. So that's really inspiring. We are a smaller, we call ourselves a support member country. We're smaller than, say, the United States, but I think that's still a tremendous impact for Opportunity Canada. And just seeing some of the stories behind, like I see the stories behind these 5 goals here, just the confidence building that goes out in the field, and just some of the businesses, some of the innovative businesses that some of our women have put together, just seeing how they're impacting the next generation. Not only we talk a lot about women, but we also see how the women are impacting their children, both the boys and the girls too. So there's education piece happening there. So I hope that answered the question. If not,
Perhaps I can jump in as well here, Grace. I think it's worth noting, especially when you look at your top point there, which is number 4, quality education. Canadian supporters have been provided a large support for the education finance and education quality program around the world as well, which is, I guess, would be a component of addressing SDG number 4. And, as you can imagine, there's millions of kids just because of the impact of this program over the last 8 or 9 years that have been given access to education that they wouldn't otherwise have. And that group has been impacted as much as anyone else has by school closings. And so the team has been working hard to get supports out to schools and teachers and to keep the training going so they'll be ready to open when the economy's opened up again. But we have some very generous supporters on the education finance side of things, which is part of this SDG here as well. And I think it's safe to note here that all of these impact numbers that you're talking, these are just Opportunity Canada's direct contribution within the broader opportunity impact globally. Okay, there's a number of questions that are flying in here now. Has COVID impacted OI's work in Nigeria? And I'm afraid I don't have an answer for you, Ross, on that, but I know that it's impacted our work everywhere because all of the countries where we serve, the economies have shut down. It is said that about 80% of our clients have seen a significant drop in income due to economic shutdown, and this is having effects all the way through the ecosystem. But I will definitely, Ross, connect with you and get some more specific information about Nigeria. And there's also a question, Grace, can your PowerPoint be made available?
that's an easy one, yes.
Dave Peltier says, what's the business and operating relationship between Opportunity International Canada and the other units of Opportunity International worldwide? So we're part of a global partnership. There are 5 support member countries, they're called. So Canada is one of them. The other 4 are the US, the UK, Australia, and Germany. The CEOs of those 5 support member countries meet at least monthly by Zoom. In fact, I was part of our June meeting just yesterday afternoon. There's also a global board, which consists of the chairs of the boards of the 5 support member countries. And one of those chairs serves as the chair of that board. There is an executive director of Opportunity Global that reports to that board, and Rob Dunn, who is finishing his tenure at the end of the summer, but he's been serving there for the last 3 or 4 years. And our digital financial services team, SPM team, and education finance team report into the global executive director. So we work quite collaboratively. Each of us are charities in our own right within the countries where we serve, and we tend to pursue projects in different geographic regions, but all within the same DNA of what Opportunity International is. And we often collaborate on projects. We're stronger together, and so there are pieces that we can all bring to the table. And just for example, the work we do in India is in collaboration with OI Australia. The work we're doing in Haiti is in collaboration with OI Germany and OI US. And much of the work we're doing in Ghana is tapping into global UK and US resources as well. The question from Wayne Bennett was, did you see the MasterCard Foundation coming back to support OI in the future? Grace, I don't know if you want to address that. Or...
Sure, we are working with them. A big part of what they want to support is youth. So we are looking into that just to see if there's a good alignment of the mission. And I feel quite confident that we will be able to work with MasterCard in the future. So that is underway, and all being well, we should hopefully see some funding, but you just never know. I think MasterCard is they're still fleshing out their strategy, so they haven't totally landed on it, but we are in conversation with them. So that's still a positive sign that there'll be something for us in the future. Here's
a good kind of ROI question. If we raised twice the amount of money, would we help twice the amount of people, or would we be able to provide more assistance to a similar number of people?
Definitely. Did you want to answer that? Do you want me to?
Well, I mean, the thought that went through my mind immediately was, you know, the sort of the cost of operating OIC is a fixed amount, and then everything else we raise on top of that goes directly to the field. So if we actually raise twice as much, we'd be sending more than twice as much to the field. So in some ways, we'd probably even help more than double the number of people. But it also depends on how you roll the program out, because I do like your idea of going deeper and having greater impact over the long run with the same number of people. But I think our projects tend to scale both in terms of breadth and depth. So it would probably be a blend of the two. I know that sounds like a pretty political answer, but I don't know, Grace, if you can add anything from a more numeric perspective.
Yeah, it all depends on which programs that we're funding. Obviously, there is a multiplier effect through all the work that we do. So the more that we can fund some of these projects, there is a direct correlation to the number of people impacted. So I would say definitely, just off the top of my head, definitely double, if not a little bit more, as Dan had mentioned, because we have those fixed costs covered going into next year.
And John Buller, the recording will be made available. I believe Andrew's going to be making the recording of this session available on our website and to those that attended as well. Probably takes a day or two to get the thing edited, and it'll be made available. And I'll just note, I think the recording will be sent out as well as a PDF of the slides. So you'll have both the recording and the slide package, a slide deck. And Nancy's asking, are you actively trying to grow your endowment fund? If so, how?
That's a Dan question.
Well, this, as Grace mentioned, this is a new area for us, but it's something that's been a strategy, I think, for several years. And so we are, in fact, looking at building up what we call a sustainability fund. It's a different thing, you know, than normal funding. And it would appeal to donors who are saying, you know what, we'd like our funds to rest and then give back year after year after year to help, you know, the mission of OI. So it's different than, say, giving to this year's operating budget or this year's loan portfolio. It's a fund where the principal is preserved and you know, we live off the proceeds to help achieve our mission. So that is something that we think we need to work on building up over the next several years. And we're just in the process actually of exploring how to put those pieces together. So stay tuned. I think there'll be more information coming. I guess going once, going twice. Any other questions here? Well, on that note, I guess, you know, it's pretty good if we can wrap up a town hall in 40 minutes. Everyone's busy. So thank you so much again for taking the time to join us today. And I just can't say enough how inspired and supported we feel by our supporters and donors. And you know, look forward to hearing from us as we move into the summer and fall. We got to stay, we really do need to partner and stand with our implementing partners and our clients and really help them get through this time. So thanks again and God bless, and we'll see you at the next town hall.